Let's look at the animation. So 200 was not too bad. It was pretty close, but the real number from the research is 300. 4 times more energy when you get an emotional engagement compared to a rational engagement. That is huge. So GSK culture shift was going to be difficult. We needed to tap into this type of energy in order to fuel the flight for the plane. So there is another way to look at this power of emotions. And the best quote for me is a quote from Dr. Donald Kahn, British Canadian neurologist. And this is what he said. The essential difference between emotion and logics. In other words, the essential difference between the brain and the heart is that logic leads to conclusion. Yes, that makes sense to do this culture shift at GSK. Versus emotions leads to action. Yes, it makes sense. Let's get going. How can I help? That's the kind of difference between emotions and logic. So what does that mean for us leaders and in HR? The way I look at it, and that's what I always say to clients, is that yes, it's important to do the business case. It's important to explain why, from a business standpoint, it is critical to shift the business based on the needs of oncology and the new GSK new Biopharma vision. But it's not enough. To tap into the 300 extra % of energy, we need to build what I call the emotional case. We need to find ways to connect the change and the need for the change with what people care about in their heart, because this is how you tap into the huge power of emotions. So that is why during the focus groups, during the interviews, I ask a lot of questions, open questions, of course, about feelings. How do you feel about the culture? How do you feel about agility? How do you feel about the ability to make agility a reality? How do you feel about the leadership? By asking all these questions about feelings, it's like when you go fishing, you try to get stuff out. And this is ingredients that you can then use to build the emotional case. But also, you need to start to have a strong emotional case within the PLT, the pharma leadership team, the Canadian C-suite, because at the end of the day, culture shift has to start at the top. So the next step, so now we were in beginning of October, the next step was 2020, for me to meet the PLT and to share with them some of the big themes that came out of the interviews and focus group, and some of my analysis and recommendations. And I thought long and hard about how to start the meeting, because I wanted to trigger an emotional reaction. And I'm going to show you the picture I use to actually start the meeting with the PLT. This is the picture I use. So it's a picture of a crossroad. As you can see, there is a lot of dark clouds, but on the right side, there is a little bit of sun, little tiny hole of sun. And the message that was written in the middle of my slide is the one you see here, which is we are at a crossroad, and the next days will be absolutely critical. And I use this picture and this message on purpose to trigger an emotional reaction before even starting to share with them what came out of the meeting. So I'm going to highlight some of the key points I made.